The soft glow of the moon-petal lamp cast dappled light across Lyra's room, making the shadows dance like playful sprites. Outside, the whispering woods rustled. A symphony of gentle sighs and hushed secrets, a sound Lyra had known her entire life. She lay in her bed, nestled deep in the hollow of a giant oak, her room a cozy nook carved from the living wood itself. The walls were smooth, polished timber, embedded with tiny luminescent moss patches that pulsed with a faint, sleepy green. A window, framed with twisted branches, looked out into the deeper emerald gloom of the forest, where ancient trees stretched towards the star-dusted sky. Lyra wasn't quite asleep. Her mind was a butterfly, fluttering from thought to thought, catching on the edges of a feeling she couldn't quite name. It was a sense of something just beyond her grasp, a whisper not from the wind, but from deep within the forest's heart, calling to her. She often felt it, especially at dusk, when the world softened and the veil between the seen and unseen grew thin. It wasn't a sad feeling, nor a frightening one, but a deep, quiet yearning, like remembering a beautiful song you'd never quite heard. She pushed back her patchwork quilt, woven from the shimmering silks of moon moths and dyed with berry juices, and padded barefoot across the cool, smooth floor. Her feet, small and nimble, barely disturbed the silence. She paused at the window, pressing her nose against the cool glass, letting the faint scent of damp earth and pine needles seep through the cracks. The whispering woods didn't just whisper with leaves, they whispered with stories, with forgotten spells, with the dreams of sleeping animals. Tonight, the whispers felt particularly insistent, like 1,000 tiny voices trying to tell her something important. A shimmering stream snaked through the forest just visible from her window, its surface catching the moonlight like spilled diamonds. Firefly lanterns drifted slowly along its banks, guided by unseen currents, their soft glows marking the path for night travelers. Lyra watched them, her brow furrowed in thought. The feeling was stronger tonight, a soft tug deep in her chest, pulling her towards the heart of the woods, towards something she didn't understand, but felt she recognized. She sighed, a small puff of air in the quiet room. It was too late to go wandering. Grandmother Ilara would be cross, and besides, the night held its own mysteries best left to the morning sun. Still, the pull was undeniable. It wasn't the first time. Sometimes she'd wake from a dream with the feeling still clinging to her, a sense of having been on the verge of discovering something magnificent, only for it to slip away like mist. Deciding a warm drink might help settle her restless spirit, Lyra crept out of her room, down the spiral staircase that hugged the inside of the oak tree. The wood creaked softly under her weight, a familiar, comforting sound. Below, a soft light spilled from the kitchen, and the gentle aroma of chamomile and something else, something warm and spicy, like star anise and honey, wafted up to greet her. Grandmother Ilara sat at the hearth, a steaming mug cradled in her hands. Her silver hair, braided with strands of luminescent moss similar to those in Lyra's room, caught the firelight, shimmering like spun moonlight. She wore a soft woolen gown the color of twilight, and her eyes, deep and knowing, were fixed on the dancing flames. She looked up as Lyra entered, a soft smile blooming on her face, lines crinkling around her eyes like ancient maps. "Couldn't sleep, little sprout." Ilara's voice was like the rustling of autumn leaves, gentle and wise. Lyra nodded, padding over to the warmth of the fire. "The woods were whispering loudly tonight, grandmother, and I have that feeling again, like there's a secret just out of reach." Ilara patted the stool beside her, inviting Lyra to sit. Nah. Lyra curled up, leaning her head against her grandmother's knee. The warmth of the fire and Ilara's presence were instantly soothing. "Ah, that feeling," Ilara murmured, her gaze returning to the fire. "I know it well. It's the forest's way of reminding us of wonders unseen, of songs unheard." She reached for a small, intricately carved wooden box on the mantelpiece, and opened it. Inside, nestled on a bed of dried lavender, were 2 delicate silver filigree teacups. She poured a generous measure of the fragrant, steaming brew from a clay pot into one of the cups, and handed it to Lyra. "Drink this, my dear. It's midnight bloom tea. It helps the spirit listen more clearly, and the mind to dream more brightly." Lyra took a cautious sip. It was warm and sweet, with a hint of something earthy and magical. As the liquid warmed her throat, she felt the edges of her restlessness soften. "What kind of song, grandmother?" she asked, her voice hushed. "Is it a bird song, or the stream?" Elara smiled, a faraway look in her eyes. No, my dear, not with your ears, not in the way we usually hear. It is a song deeper than sound, older than time. It is what the ancient ones called the Heartwood Song. Lyra's eyes widened. The Heartwood Song. I've never heard of it. Few have these days, Elara said, taking another sip of her own tea. It is a legend, a forgotten melody, a whisper of the world's truest magic. They say, long, long ago when the world was young and magic flowed freely like the rivers, the Heartwood Song was a constant presence. It was the hum of creation, the pulse of life itself. Every living thing felt it, deep in their bones. It brought peace, understanding, and an unbreakable connection between all creatures and the earth. Lyra imagined a world bathed in such a feeling, a constant, comforting hum. What happened to it? Over time, Elara sighed, a faint sadness in her voice, as the world grew louder, as people began to listen more to their own worries, and less to the quiet voices of the earth. The song began to fade. It became harder to hear, like a distant echo. Now, it is rare indeed. Only those with open hearts, with spirits attuned to the oldest magic, can even hope to feel its presence. But what does it enjoy? Lyra pressed, her curiosity now fully alight. This was it. This was the explanation for the feeling she'd carried. It is said to grant profound insight, Elara explained, her eyes twinkling like distant stars. To reveal forgotten truths, to mend broken spirits, to guide lost souls home. Some say it can even show you glimpses of the future, or unlock the deepest mysteries of the past. But mostly, it brings a sense of belonging, a profound peace that settles deep into your soul, connecting you to every living thing, to the very heart of the world. Lyra shivered, not from cold, but from the sheer wonder of the idea. I think I felt it, grandmother. Or at least, a tiny part of it. That feeling, that longing. Elara nodded, her smile warm. Perhaps you have, little sprout. You have a spirit that listens well, a heart open to the whispers. The Heartwood Song doesn't manifest as a loud declaration, but as a subtle resonance, a gentle pull, a sense of knowing without being told. Where does it come from? Lyra asked, looking towards the dark window, towards the depths of the whispering woods. From the oldest places, they say, Elara mused, stirring her tea. From the ancient heartwood of the tallest trees, from the deepest springs that bubble up from the earth's core, from the places where the veil between worlds is thinnest. It is strongest when the moon is full and high, when the stars sing in their silent choirs, when the world settles into its deepest slumber. But it is elusive. It does not reveal itself easily. It chooses its listeners. So, it's not something you can just, I find? Lyra asked, a flicker of disappointment in her voice. Not in the way you might find a lost slipper. No, Elara chuckled softly. It is more like finding a forgotten memory, or catching a fleeting scent on the breeze. You must be ready. You must be open. And you must listen not with your ears, but with your entire being. She paused, her gaze thoughtful. My own grandmother, your great-grandmother Willow, she claimed to have felt it once. She said it was like every leaf on every tree, every blade of grass, every drop of water in the stream, every star in the sky, was singing a single perfect note in harmony. She said it made her feel as though she finally understood everything, even for just a moment. Lyra imagined that feeling. It sounded incredible, overwhelming in its beauty. Her own vague sensation was nothing compared to that. But it was a start. It was a sign. Where did she feel it? Elara's eyes twinkled. Near the silent pool, she said, deep within the whispering woods past the grove of the ancient elder oaks. But she warned that the path to the silent pool is not always clear, and the woods protect their secrets fiercely. Lyra knew the elder oaks. They were enormous, their branches like gnarled arms reaching to the sky, their bark thick with stories written in lichen and moss. She had often played beneath them, imagining them to be wise, ancient guardians. She had never ventured much beyond them, though. The woods grew denser, darker, and the whispers there were deeper, more mysterious. Do you think I could find it, grandmother? Lyra asked, her voice small but laced with a burgeoning determination. Elara reached out and gently stroked Lyra's hair. Perhaps, my dear, if anyone could, it would be you. You have a touch of the old magic in your blood, a spirit that dances with the moonbeams. But it would be a journey of the heart, Lyra, not just of the feet. You would need patience, and respect for the woods, and an even deeper respect for the quiet voices within yourself. Lyra felt a thrill of excitement, a spark of adventure igniting within her. This wasn't just a bedtime story. This was a Egg story. This was the answer to the yearning she'd always felt. I want to try, she whispered, looking up at her grandmother, her eyes alight with purpose. I want to find the Heartwood's song. Ilara smiled, a knowing, gentle smile. Then you shall, my brave sprout, but not tonight. Tonight you must let the midnight bloom tea work its magic. Let it open your dreams, and perhaps the song will visit you there first. She squeezed Lyra's hand gently. The woods teach us patience, Lyra. The greatest wonders rarely reveal themselves in haste. Lyra nodded, though her heart was thrumming with a newfound energy. She finished her tea, the warmth spreading through her, making her feel cozy and safe, yet also strangely invigorated. She said goodnight to Ilara, who blew her a kiss that felt like a soft gust of wind carrying the scent of night-blooming jasmine. Back in her room, Lyra climbed into bed, pulling the moon moth quilt up to her chin. The moon-petal lamp still cast its gentle glow, and the whispers from the woods outside seemed less mysterious now, more like a choir of unseen beings humming a lullaby. She looked out her window again, towards the dark expanse beyond the elder oaks, towards the direction of the legendary silent pool. The image of her great-grandmother Willow, standing beneath a canopy of ancient trees, bathed in a celestial harmony, filled her mind. She closed her eyes, and instead of the usual restless thoughts, a clear intention settled in her heart. She would seek the Heartwood song. She didn't know how, or when, or what trials lay ahead, but she knew, with a certainty that hummed through her veins, that this was what she was meant to do. And as sleep finally began to claim her, Lyra felt a faint, distant resonance, a whisper that was almost a melody, a promise of magic yet to unfold. She drifted into dreams, dreams of ancient trees, shimmering pools, and a song that echoed through the very fabric of the world, waiting to be remembered. The journey, she knew, was just beginning. The journey, she knew, was just beginning. Lyra awoke with the morning sun painting stripes across her small room, but it wasn't the light that stirred her. It was the hum. A gentle, insistent thrum that resonated deep within her, a faint echo of the melody from her dreams. It felt like the world itself was singing, and for the first time, she was truly listening. She slipped out of bed, her bare feet silent on the worn wooden floor. Her simple room, usually a comforting haven, suddenly felt small. The familiar patterns of her life, the daily chores, the quiet village, seemed like a distant whisper compared to the vibrant song now calling to her. She looked out her window at the dew-kissed fields stretching towards the distant, ancient woods, the Whispering Woods as they were called. Yesterday, they had been a backdrop. Today, they pulsed with an invitation. With a quiet resolve that surprised even herself, Lyra began to pack. Not much, just a sturdy cloak against the morning chill, a waterskin, a small pouch of dried fruit and bread, and the smooth, river-polished stone she always kept by her bedside. She left a note on her pillow, a simple message for her family, her heart aching with a familiar pang of love and a new, bewildering sense of destiny. Ki must go. The woods are calling. I will return. She knew they might not understand, but she hoped they would forgive her sudden departure. As the first birds began their morning chorus, Lyra stepped out of her cottage and into the pearly light of dawn. The air was crisp and sweet, carrying the scent of damp earth and awakening blossoms. She didn't look back. Her feet, as if guided by an unseen hand, turned towards the edge of the village, towards the shadowy embrace of the Whispering Woods. The path soon narrowed, the familiar dirt track giving way to a winding trail barely visible beneath a canopy of ancient oaks and towering elms. Here, the air grew cooler, carrying a different scent of moss, rich soil, and something indefinably wild. Sunlight struggled to pierce the dense foliage, scattering in dappled patterns on the forest floor. Lyra felt a prickle of awe, a sense of stepping into a world far older and more mysterious than anything she had ever known. The hum in her veins grew stronger here, a soft vibration that seemed to echo from the trees themselves. She noticed things she had never seen before, tiny, bioluminescent mushrooms glowing softly beneath a fallen log, their caps like miniature constellations, ferns unfurling with an almost audible sigh, a stream that didn't just babble, but seemed to murmur a quiet tune as it flowed over smooth stones. Every rustle of leaves, every distant bird call, seemed to be part of a larger, intricate symphony. Hours passed. Lyra walked deeper, guided by instinct and the persistent, gentle pull within her. The trees grew taller, their branches intertwining to form a living cathedral. The path grew fainter, sometimes disappearing altogether, only for a subtle shift in the forest's energy, a brighter glow from a particular patch of moss, or a sudden burst of birdsong, to guide her back. She came upon a clearing unlike any she had ever seen. Here the trees, though still ancient, seemed strangely muted. Their leaves were a duller green, and the ground beneath them was dry and cracked, despite the lushness of the surrounding forest. The air in this clearing felt heavy, silent, almost sad. The gentle hum that had guided her through the woods faltered here, replaced by a low, mournful drone. This was a place where the world song was muted, where a note had gone flat. Curiosity overriding any trepidation, Lyra stepped into the clearing. As her foot touched the dry earth, a ripple seemed to pass through the air. A moment later, from the gnarled trunk of the largest, most ancient oak in the center of the clearing, a form began to coalesce. First, a shimmering outline, then the delicate curves of a face, eyes like pools of amber, skin like dappled bark, hair like woven moss and autumn leaves. A dryad. "You feel it, don't you, little blossom?" The dryad's voice was like the rustle of leaves in a gentle breeze, soft, yet resonant. The silence, the missing note. Lyra, though startled, felt no fear. The dryad's presence was ancient, but benevolent. "I do," Lyra whispered, her voice feeling small in the vastness of the woods. "What is this place? Why is it quiet?" The dryad stepped fully from the tree, her slender form draped in swirling patterns of green and brown, her bare feet rooted to the earth. "This is the Heartwood Grove," she explained, her gaze sweeping over the mournful trees. Once it sang the loudest of all. Its melody was the anchor for this entire section of the Whispering Woods, a vibrant harmony of growth and life. But a shadow fell, a discord, and its song began to fade. She gestured to a large, moss-covered stone nestled at the base of the ancient oak. It was split down the middle, a jagged fissure marring its surface. The heartstone cracked, and with it, the grove's voice faltered. "Can it be mended?" "Paanine?" Lyra asked, her gaze fixed on the broken stone. The hum in her veins intensified, a faint echo of the grove's former glory reaching out to her. The dryad, who introduced herself as Ilara, smiled, a slow, ancient smile that reached her amber eyes. "Perhaps, the world's song is not truly broken, merely forgotten in places, but it takes a special ear to hear its true note, a special heart to hum it back into being." Ilara stepped closer, her gaze penetrating. "You hear it, don't you? The whisper of what Waiski, the promise of what it could be." Lyra nodded, a lump in her throat. She felt the echo, a faint, pure tone vibrating beneath the discord. It was the melody from her dream, clearer now, though still elusive. "This is your first trial, Lyra of the Whispering Heart," Ilara said gently. "To coax the song back to the Heartwood Grove, to mend the heartstone not with mortar, but with melody." Lyra approached the broken stone, her heart thrumming. She tentatively reached out, her fingers brushing against the rough, cold surface. It felt barren, devoid of life. She closed her eyes, focusing on the hum within her, the faint, sweet melody that was almost a memory. She imagined the grove as Ilara described it, vibrant, singing, alive. She thought of the gentle babble of the stream, the rustle of leaves, the morning chorus of birds, all harmonizing. Then, very softly, she began to hum. It was a simple, wordless tune, one that seemed to rise from deep within her, a melody she had never consciously learned, yet knew intimately. It was the song of the earth, of growing things, of flowing water, and gentle breezes. As her hum filled the silent clearing, something shifted. A faint tremor ran through the ground beneath her feet. The leaves on the ancient oak shivered, not from wind, but from an unseen energy. Lyra opened her eyes. To her astonishment, Where her fingers touched the cracked heartstone, a faint golden light began to emanate. It pulsed with her hum growing brighter, weaving into the jagged fissure. She felt a connection, a conduit, between her own song and the silent heart of the grove. It was difficult, requiring immense concentration. She felt a drain on her energy, a profound sense of giving of herself. Elara watched, her ancient eyes wide with wonder. Yes, little blossom, feel the connection. Let the world's song flow through you. Lyra deepened her hum, pouring all her focus, all her growing understanding of the resonance, into the stone. The golden light intensified, tracing the cracks like liquid sunlight. Slowly, impossibly, the rough edges of the fissure began to soften, to draw together. Tiny, verdant shoots of moss, vibrant green, began to sprout from the previously barren stone, weaving themselves across the mending crack. As Lyra's song swelled, a wave of color washed over the grove. The dull green leaves of the trees deepened to a rich emerald, shimmering with renewed vitality. Tiny buds burst open on branches, revealing blossoms in shades of amethyst, sapphire, and ruby, their petals unfurling in slow motion. The dry, cracked earth softened, turning dark and moist, and delicate wildflowers, unseen moments before, pushed through the soil reaching for the light. The mournful drone in the air vanished, replaced by a gentle, harmonious hum that resonated through every leaf, every blade of grass, every newly blossomed flower. It was the grove's own song, returning, stronger and clearer than before. Birds, their feathers suddenly vibrant, flew into the clearing, their calls joining the symphony. A family of deer who had been hiding in the shadow of the surrounding trees, cautiously stepped into the newly vibrant grove, their eyes wide with peaceful wonder. Finally, with a soft, resonant quite from, the heartstone glowed with a pure, steady light, the crack completely sealed, its surface now smooth and whole, adorned with a delicate tracery of emerald moss. Lyra's song faded into a whisper, then into silence, but the grove's melody continued, a vibrant, living hum that filled the air. She felt utterly exhausted, yet gloriously alive, the hum in her veins now a steady, joyful vibration. Elara glided forward, her eyes shining. You have done it, Lyra. You have reminded the heartwood grove of its song. You have retuned a note in the world's song. She gently took Lyra's hands, her touch like cool bark. Your voice, little blossom, is a conduit. Your heart, a tuning fork for the magic of this world. Lyra felt tears welling in her eyes, tears of wonder and profound understanding. She had felt the magic, not just dreamed it. She had created it. The world song is fading in many places, Elara continued, her voice growing more serious. Places of power, places of memory. This grove was but a whisper compared to some of the silences that have fallen. Your journey, Lyra, is far from over. From a pocket in her mossy robes, Elara produced a single iridescent seed, no larger than Lyra's thumbnail. It glowed with a faint internal light, pulsing in time with the grove's renewed song. This is a heart seed from the newly awakened grove. It will be your compass. When you are near a place where the world's song is faltering, it will glow brighter, and its warmth will guide you. Listen to it, Lyra, and it will show you the way. Lyra carefully took the seed, its warmth spreading through her palm. It hummed softly, a miniature echo of the magic she had just woven. Where do I go now? Lyra asked, her gaze falling upon the vast ancient forest that stretched out beyond the grove. Elara pointed a slender bark-like finger towards the west, where the trees grew even thicker, their crowns touching the clouds. The greatest echo of the world's song, and perhaps its deepest silence, lies in the sunken labyrinth. An ancient place, hidden beneath the roots of the elder tree mountains. It is a place of immense power, Lyra, but also of profound mystery and forgotten trials. The path is long, and not without its shadows. Lyra looked in the direction Elara indicated. She couldn't see the mountains, or any labyrinth, but she felt a new, distant pull, a stronger, more complex melody woven into the hum of the heartseed. The journey to the sunken labyrinth would be a grander challenge than the grove, she knew, but the certainty that had hummed in her veins last night was now a vibrant, unwavering chord. She had found her first note, and the melody of her destiny was beginning to unfold. With a grateful nod to Elara, Lyra turned and began to walk, the heart seed warm in her pocket, its faint glow a beacon against the deepening shadows of the afternoon. The whispering woods, now vibrant with renewed life, sang a harmonious farewell, and Lyra, with a song in her heart and a purpose in her step, began the next leg of her extraordinary journey. The sunken labyrinth awaited. The sunken labyrinth. The name itself was a melody of mystery, a deep, resonant hum in the back of Lyra's mind. She walked for what felt like hours, the afternoon sun dipping lower, painting the sky in strokes of apricot and rose. The path, once soft earth beneath her feet in the whispering woods, gradually hardened, giving way to ancient cobblestone remnants half buried in moss and tenacious wildflowers. The air grew cooler, carrying the damp mineral scent of old stone and distant water. The trees thinned, no longer a vibrant welcoming canopy, but gnarled, skeletal sentinels with twisted branches that clawed at the fading light. Beyond them, the land began to slope downwards, a subtle, almost imperceptible descent into a wide, verdant basin. And there, in the deepening twilight, it emerged. It wasn't a structure that rose from the earth, but one that seemed to sink into it, a vast, circular depression in the landscape, ringed by towering, crumbling walls of dark, mottled stone. The walls were not uniform, but seemed to be fashioned from colossal, interlocking blocks, each etched with symbols that time had blurred but not erased. They were patterns of swirling water, of intertwining vines, of strange winged creatures soaring towards an unseen sun. A low, constant murmur filled the air, a sound Lyra realized was not the wind, but the distant, rhythmic sigh of water. The sunken labyrinth was not merely sunken in name, parts of it truly were submerged. As she drew closer, she saw shimmering pools reflecting the last vestiges of sunset, their surfaces still and dark like polished obsidian. Ancient archways, half swallowed by the earth, led into shadowed passages. Waterfalls, not from a river, but from unseen springs within the walls themselves, cascaded silently into the sunken pools, creating a network of liquid pathways. The heart seed in her pocket pulsed with a gentle warmth, its faint glow now a steadier, more noticeable thrum against her palm. It wasn't guiding her with a frantic pull, but with a quiet certainty, a sense of rightness. This was the place. She found herself standing before the main entrance, a gaping maw in the colossal outer wall. Two immense weather-beaten stone pillars carved to resemble intertwined serpents guarded the passage. Their heads met overhead, forming an arch, their eyes hollow and staring. Between them, a heavy portcullis of dark, unidentifiable metal hung, rusted and immovable, half buried in the damp earth. Lyra reached out, her fingers tracing the cold, rough surface of one of the serpent pillars. A shiver, not of fear but of ancient power, ran through her. This place hummed with a different kind of magic than the whispering woods, older, heavier, perhaps more profound. "How do I enter?" she whispered, her voice swallowed by the vast silence of the labyrinth's embrace. The heart seed throbbed. She instinctively reached for it, pulling it from her pocket. In her palm, it glowed brighter, a soft emerald light. It cast dancing shadows on the serpent pillars, illuminating faint, almost invisible musical notations etched into the stone, hidden within the serpentine scales. Her first note. The brant, unwavering chord. It rose unbidden to her mind, a clear, resonant tone. She took a deep breath, centered herself, and let the note unfurl from her lips. It wasn't a loud sound, but it carried an astonishing clarity, a pure, sustained tone that vibrated in the very air. As the note resonated, the etchings on the pillars began to glow with a faint, silvery light, mirroring the heartseed's emerald pulse. The ground beneath her feet trembled, a deep, grinding groan rising from the depths of the labyrinth. Slowly, agonizingly, the massive rusted portcullis began to rise, shedding flakes of ancient metal and dust, revealing a dark, echoing passage beyond. The sound was like a giant sigh, a release of centuries of slumber. With a final, echoing clang, the portcullis settled, high above, revealing a path that led into utter darkness. The heart seed pulsed, a warm, steady beacon. Lyra swallowed, a mix of apprehension and exhilaration churning within her. This was it. She stepped inside, the chill of the labyrinth washing over her. The passage was wide, hewn from the same dark stone, and sloped gently downwards. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth, minerals, and something else, something ancient and indescribable, like forgotten dreams. The faint glow of the heartseed was her only light, pushing back the oppressive darkness. As she delved deeper, the passage opened into a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow. What struck her first was the sound, or rather, the lack of it. The outside world's whispers and rustles were gone, replaced by an absolute, profound silence that seemed to press in on her ears. It was a silence that felt heavy, waiting. The chamber was dominated by a colossal, circular pool of water, its surface glassy and still, reflecting nothing but the dim light of the heartseed. Strange, skeletal structures of unknown origin rose from its depths, like petrified trees or the ribs of some long-dead leviathan. The water itself held a faint inner luminescence, revealing glimpses of submerged arches and pathways beneath the surface. Along the edges of the chamber, carved into the stone walls, were a series of alcoves, each containing a pedestal. On each pedestal rested a single polished stone, varying in size and color, from a deep sapphire blue to a shimmering pearl white, a vibrant emerald green to a fiery ruby red. They hummed with a quiet energy, almost imperceptible until Lyra drew close. As she approached the first pedestal, the heartseed flared, guiding her to a stone the color of amethyst, swirling with faint silver veins. Etched onto the pedestal beneath it was a symbol she didn't recognize, but it seemed to depict a single echoing wave, expanding outwards. "What is this place?" Lyra murmured, her voice sounding unnaturally loud in the profound silence. The heartseed pulsed, a soft, insistent rhythm. Lyra touched the amethyst stone. It was cool and smooth, but as her fingers brushed it, a faint, almost inaudible hum vibrated through her fingertips. It was a note, not one she had sung, but one that resonated deep within the stone itself. It was a low, mournful cello note, rich and profound, a fundamental tone. She moved to the next pedestal, which held a vibrant emerald stone. This one resonated with a higher, clearer note, like a flute's pure call. The next, a ruby stone, pulsed with a strong, rhythmic drumbeat. Each stone held a unique, elemental sound, a single, perfect note of its own. There were 12 pedestals in total, each with its own sonic signature. Lyra realized with a thrill that this was a library of sound, a collection of fundamental notes, each waiting to be discovered, understood, and perhaps woven together. She remembered Ilara's words, "The world is a symphony, Lyra, and you are learning its notes." The heartseed seemed to urge her towards the center of the chamber, to the vast, silent pool. As she peered into its depths, the faint luminescence revealed a submerged pathway, a series of ancient stepping stones leading across the water to a central island. But the path was broken, several stones missing, leaving perilous gaps. Lyra hesitated. Iron? The water looked deep, and she couldn't tell what lay beneath its surface. The silence was unnerving. The heartseed, however, pulsed with a new urgency, a quickening rhythm against her palm. It seemed to be telling her to listen. To really listen. She closed her eyes, letting the silence of the labyrinth wash over her. She tried to discern any subtle shifts, any hidden movements. Then she remembered the 12 stones, the fundamental notes she had just touched. She focused, trying to recall the feeling, the unique vibration of each. Slowly, hesitantly, she began to hum. Not her own note, but the mournful cello note of the amethyst stone. As the sound left her lips, she felt a subtle vibration beneath her feet. One of the missing stepping stones in the water, a dark, moss-covered slab, shimmered faintly and then, with a soft clunking, rose a fraction of an inch from the water's surface, just enough to be visible and stable. A gasp escaped her. She tried another note, the flute's clear call from the emerald stone. Another stone rose, further along the path. This was it. The labyrinth was a test of harmony, a puzzle of sound. She had to recall and recreate the specific notes of these primal stones to rebuild the path. Each stone was a piece of the grand melody. It took time, patience, and absolute focus. Lyra moved from stone to stone, humming, singing, sometimes just feeling the note deep within her, until she could replicate its unique resonance. With each successful attempt, a stepping stone would rise, its surface momentarily glowing with the color of the stone that had activated it. The process was draining, but exhilarating. She was learning to distinguish the subtle nuances of each note, to feel its true essence. She was not just singing. She was resonating with the very fabric of the labyrinth. Finally, after what felt like an age, the last stone rose, completing the path to the central island. It was a small circular platform, dominated by a single colossal pillar of polished black stone. This pillar glowed with an inner light, a shimmering rainbow of colors, as if all the notes she had just activated were coalescing within it. Lyra stepped onto the island, the heart seed thrumming excitedly in her hand. The air around the pillar was warm, vibrant with energy. She reached out, placing her hand on the smooth, cool surface of the pillar. As her fingers made contact, a soft ethereal chime echoed through the chamber, a sound that seemed to weave together all 12 fundamental notes she had just discovered. The pillar's light intensified, swirling faster, and then, slowly, a shimmering image began to form within its depths. It was a map, etched in shifting light. Not a map of physical locations, but of musical pathways. Lines of light, like glowing staves, crisscrossed the image, studded with radiant points that pulsed like musical beats. One point at the very center glowed brighter than the rest. It was marked with a symbol Lyra now recognized, a single, unwavering chord. Her first note. Around it, other points shimmered faintly, tantalizingly out of reach. Each point had a small unique glyph beside it, a swirling current, a crystalline shard, a whispering leaf, a tiny flame. Elara's words echoed again, each note you find will lead you to the next. This pillar was a Rosetta Stone of melody, a guide to the symphony of the world. It showed her not just where to go, but how to approach each new discovery. The glyphs, she instinctively knew, represented the essence of the next note she needed to find, and perhaps the very nature of the challenge that would guard it. The heartseat pulsed, a steady, guiding beat. The map began to focus on one specific point, a shimmering node marked with the symbol of a swirling current. Beneath it, a faint inscription appeared in a language Lyra didn't understand, but the heartseed translated its meaning directly into her mind. Die the echoing maw, where the silence breaks and the currents sing. Kins. The light of the pillar began to dim, the map fading back into the smooth, black stone. The ethereal chime softened, then vanished, replaced once more by the labyrinth's heavy silence. Lyra stood there, heart pounding, a sense of profound purpose settling within her. She had not only found a path, but a direction, a target. She turned, ready to retrace her steps when a subtle shift in the chamber caught her attention. The massive, silent pool that filled the center of the chamber was no longer entirely still. Near the far end, where the passage she had entered continued deeper into the labyrinth, the water had begun to ripple. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, the ripples grew into gentle undulations. Then, with a soft gurgling sigh, a new pathway began to emerge from the depths of the pool. It wasn't made of stone like the one she had just traversed, but of shimmering, solidified water, an archway of liquid light that pulsed with a faint cerulean glow. It led directly to a new passage, previously hidden beneath the surface. The heart seed vibrated, urging her forward. The map on the pillar had faded, but the image of the echoing mole and the swirling current was burned into her mind. She understood. The labyrinth wasn't just about finding notes, it was about activating the path with those notes. Her successful navigation of the 12 tones had opened a new way. With renewed determination, Lyra stepped off the central island and onto the shimmering water path. It felt solid beneath her feet, cool and slightly yielding, like walking on a perfectly stable, gelatinous surface. The cerulean glow illuminated her way, painting the ancient stone walls in hues of deep blue and silver. The liquid archway led her into a narrower, winding passage. The silence here was different. It wasn't the heavy, waiting silence of the main chamber, but a more active, almost expectant quiet. The air grew cooler, and the scent of damp earth was replaced by the crisp, invigorating smell of fresh, running water. Soon, the passage opened into another vast cavern. This one, however, was far from silent. It was a symphony of water. A colossal underground river, wide and swift, surged through the center of the cavern, its currents powerful and relentless. Waterfalls cascaded from unseen heights in the ceiling, plunging into the river with thunderous roars, sending up plumes of mist that kissed Lyra's face. The chamber echoed with a cacophony of sound, the roar of the river, the crash of falling water, the hiss of spray. This must be the echoing maw. The cavern was immense, its ceiling a dizzying height, adorned with countless stalactites that glittered with moisture. Strange bioluminescent moss clung to the walls, casting a soft otherworldly glow that mingled with the cerulean light of the water path Lyra had followed. The river itself was a deep, turbulent emerald green, churning with hidden currents. Lyra stood at the edge of the river, the water path dissolving behind her, leaving her on a small rocky ledge. There was no visible way across. The river was too wide, too fast, and too dangerous to swim. Massive, smooth boulders, worn round by centuries of water, dotted the riverbed further downstream, but offered no clear path. The heartseed in her hand pulsed steadily, its emerald light reflecting in the churning water. Lyra closed her eyes, listening to the roaring symphony of the river. It wasn't a random noise. It was a complex, layered sound, 1,000 different notes of water, from the deep rumble of the main current to the high-pitched hiss of the spray, the splash of droplets, the hollow echo of the cavern itself. She remembered the map, the symbol of the swirling current, and the inscription, "I where the silence breaks and the currents sing." The challenge here wasn't silence, but overwhelming sound. She had to find the melody within the chaos. Drawing on her burgeoning understanding of notes, Lyra focused. She tried to separate the sounds, to isolate individual tones within the river's grand chorus. It was like trying to pick out a single violin in a roaring orchestra. She closed her eyes tighter, letting her sense of hearing expand, becoming one with the reverberating air. Slowly, painstakingly, she began to discern patterns. The main current had a deep, sustained hum, like a gigantic bass drum. The waterfalls created their own distinct rhythms, intricate percussive beats. The smaller eddies and whirlpools added swirling, almost melodic counterpoints. And then, she heard it. A faint, almost imperceptible sound, weaving through the thunderous roar. It was a high, clear whistle like the call of a tiny bird, but sustained, unwavering, somehow both delicate and incredibly powerful. It seemed to come from the very heart of the river, from somewhere across the tumultuous water. The heartseed vibrated fiercely, confirming her discovery. This was the note. The next note. But how to reach it? How to cross the river? She tried to reproduce the whistling note. It was difficult, requiring immense breath control and a delicate touch. Her first attempts were swallowed by the river's roar, weak and lost. But she persisted, remembering the clarity of her first note, the unwavering chord. She focused on the pure, sustained quality of the whistle, trying to match its pitch and resonance. Finally, a pure, clear whistle emerged from her lips, cutting through the din of the cavern. It was thin, ethereal, yet it resonated with an undeniable power. As her note echoed, something remarkable happened. The churning surface of the river directly in front of her began to swirl and coalesce, not into a solid path, but into a series of shimmering crystalline platforms. They were not still, but moved with the current, forming a dynamic, shifting bridge across the river. Each platform was like a giant glowing snowflake, catching the ambient light and reflecting it in a dazzling display. They pulsed in time with the river's deeper currents, swaying gently, creating a path that was both beautiful and perilous. To cross, Lyra would have to step quickly, accurately, adapting to the rhythm of the river itself. This was a test of balance, timing, and trust in her own hearing. She had to keep the whistling note alive, or the platforms would dissolve. Taking a deep breath, Lyra stepped onto the first crystalline platform, her note still echoing softly. The platform dipped slightly under her weight, then stabilized. She took another step, then another, moving carefully but purposefully. Her gaze was fixed on the far side of the river, where a dark, arching entrance beckoned, almost hidden behind a curtain of falling water. The journey was a dance with the current. Each step required her to anticipate the platform's movement, to find her footing before it shifted too much. The constant thrumming whistle she maintained was both her anchor and her guide. The heartseed in her hand glowed steadily, its warmth a comforting presence against the chill spray. Midway across, a rogue current surged, threatening to dislodge one of the platforms. Lyra stumbled, her note wavering for a terrifying second. Her heart leaped into her throat. The platform beneath her feet began to shimmer, threatening to dissolve. Panic flared, but she pushed it down. Elara's calm voice echoed in her mind. Focus, Lyra. Let the music guide you. She closed her eyes for a split second, recentering herself, feeling the pulse of the heartseed. She found the note again, strengthening it, pouring all her concentration into its pure, sustained whistle. The platform beneath her solidified once more, the rogue current passing harmlessly beneath. Lyra opened her eyes, renewed with determination. She would not falter. She continued her perilous crossing, her voice a fragile, yet powerful thread against the river's might. Finally, with a sigh of relief, she reached the far bank. The crystalline platforms shimmered for a moment longer, then dissolved back into the churning emerald water, leaving no trace. She stood before the dark archway, partially obscured by a veil of mist from a nearby waterfall. Stepping through, she found herself in a small, damp chamber, the air thick with the scent of ozone and wet rock. In the center of the chamber, illuminated by a single shaft of light filtering down from an unseen crack in the ceiling, stood a pedestal. On the pedestal rested an object Lyra had only ever heard, described in ancient tales, a siren's tear. It was a pearl, but unlike any she had ever seen. It shimmered with an inner light, a kaleidoscope of blues and greens, constantly shifting and swirling. As Lyra drew closer, she could hear it, the faint, haunting whistle she had just reproduced, emanating from the pearl itself, pure and clear. This was it. The second note. She reached out, her fingers trembling slightly, and gently touched the siren's tear. As her skin made contact, a surge of energy flowed through her, not violent but profound. The whistle from the pearl intensified, weaving itself into her very being, resonating in her chest, in her bones, in the deepest parts of her soul. It was more than just a sound, it was an understanding. An understanding of the ebb and flow of currents, the power of delicate sound to tame the mightiest forces, the hidden melodies within chaos. She felt a new strength, a deeper connection to the world around her, to the very elements. The heartseed glowed brightly in her hand, singing in harmony with the siren's tear. The chamber around her seemed to shimmer, the waterfall's roar momentarily softening into a gentle hum. A new chord began to form within her, combining her first unwavering note with the clear, piercing whistle of the siren's tear. It was a chord of resilience and guidance, a melody that could calm the storm and reveal the hidden path. Lyra carefully placed the siren's tear into her now empty pouch, the pearl warm and vibrant against her skin, its soft whistle a constant comforting presence. She had found another note. She had faced the roaring chaos and found its hidden song. As she turned, the chamber walls themselves began to shift, revealing a new passage that had been hidden behind the illusion of solid rock. This passage was dry and cool, leading upward, away from the roaring river, promising a different kind of challenge, a new kind of note. The map in her mind, etched by the black pillar, shimmered. The next life, she recalled, depicted a crystalline shard, jagged and sharp, surrounded by a faint resonant hum. In sea, crystal, caves, where echoes shatter and light sings. Can you me? With a deep breath, Lyra stepped into the newly revealed passage, the siren's tear humming softly in her pouch, the heartseed a steady beat against her palm. Her melody was growing, becoming richer, more complex. The sunken labyrinth continued to unfold before her, a symphony of challenges, each one leading her deeper into the magic of the world and deeper into herself. The passage narrowed, the water-worn stone of the labyrinth giving way to a cool, crisp air, carrying a crystalline tang. As Lyra rounded a final bend, the darkness evaporated, replaced by an ethereal glow emanating from the very walls. She gasped. Before her stretched a cavern of impossible beauty. Towering spires of quartz, amethyst, and beryl pierced the unseen ceiling, their facets catching and refracting the ambient light into a dazzling kaleidoscope of color. Every surface shimmered, reflecting her own awestruck face 1,000 times over. The floor was a mosaic of polished obsidian and glittering geode fragments, crisscrossed by veins of luminous moss that pulsed with a gentle inner light. But it wasn't just sight. The air hummed with a continuous chime, as if the crystals sang. Each breath felt like inhaling pure sound, a symphony of high notes that resonated deep within her. This was where light sang. As she stepped further in, the sound intensified. It wasn't just a hum, it was a complex tapestry of tones, constantly shifting, evolving. Every movement, Every footfall triggered new cascades of echoes that bounced off the crystalline surfaces, multiplying and distorting, until the cavern was filled with a glorious yet overwhelming cacophony. This was where echoes shattered. Lyra felt a prickle of unease. While beautiful, the sheer volume of sound was disorienting. Her own developing melody, usually a clear guide, felt lost amidst the riotous echoes. She reached for the siren's tear in her pouch, its cool, smooth surface a small comfort. The tear, she remembered, was meant to help her understand and control sound. She took a deep breath, trying to anchor herself. The heartseat beat steadily against her palm, a warm, rhythmic pulse of life that cut through the auditory chaos. She closed her eyes for a moment, focusing on that single, unwavering rhythm. Then, she opened her eyes and began to hum, a soft, tentative note, her own personal melody. Immediately, something shifted. The siren's tear glowed and the chaotic echoes rearranged themselves, dancing around her melody like glittering dust, creating patterns of sound and light that followed her lead. The caves themselves seemed to listen, awaiting her direction. Empowered, Lyra walked deeper, her melody growing stronger, clearer. She found that by subtly altering her pitch or rhythm, she could influence the light and sound around her. A high sustained note caused the crystal spires to glow brighter, sending beams of light dancing across the cavern. A deep, resonant hum quieted the echoes, drawing them in close like attentive listeners. She was learning to conduct the caves, to weave her own music into their ancient crystalline song. The path led her through narrow fissures that opened into vast cathedral-like chambers, each more breathtaking than the last. She passed shimmering waterfalls of liquid light, flowing over steps of polished moonstone, and groves of living crystals that pulsed with soft bioluminescent light. The air was filled with a constant, gentle reverberation, a fundamental note beneath all others, like the earth's own audible heartbeat. As Lyra journeyed deeper, the nature of the challenges subtly changed. It was no longer just about managing the echoes, but about understanding the intenti behind the sounds. Some echoes whispered temptations, promises of forgotten melodies, visions of her home free from silence without further effort. Others tried to sow doubt, mimicking the voices of her loved ones expressing fear or disappointment. Lyra learned to listen with her heart, guided by the steady thrum of the heartseed. She found that the false echoes were cold, hollow, lacking the vibrant warmth of true emotion. Her own melody became a shield, a pure, unwavering stream of truth that cut through the illusions. The siren's tear helped her discern true frequencies, stripping away layers of deceit until only the pure, resonant core remained. Finally, Lyra reached the heart of the crystal caves, a vast circular chamber dominated by a colossal crystal. Not a spire, but a swirling vortex of solidified light and sound, constantly shifting, radiating immense silent power. It hummed with a profound frequency, almost beyond hearing, yet vibrating in every cell of her body. This was the true resonant heart of the caves, their endless song's source, and a gateway. Around the base of the colossal crystal, nestled in shimmering alcoves, were three figures, not living beings, but constructs of pure crystal and light. They were guardians, she sensed, their forms resembling cloaked figures, their faces smooth and featureless, yet radiating ancient watchfulness. As Lyra approached, the central crystal pulsed, and a voice, clear and resonant as a struck bell, echoed through the chamber, seemingly emanating from the crystal itself. Who approaches the heart of resonance? Who dares seek passage beyond the veiled threshold? Lyra stood tall, her melody a vibrant hum within her. I am Lyra, a seeker from the sunken village. I journey to find the source of the great silence, and to bring back the song to my world. The voice resonated again. The great silence is a wound, born of imbalance. Only one who understands true harmony may pass. You carry the siren's tear, an echo of the primal song. You carry the heartseed, a spark of life's unwavering rhythm. But do you carry the key? Lyra felt a pang of uncertainty. A key? She hadn't found any physical key. She looked at her hands, then at the heartseed pulsating gently. Her melody was her key, she realized. It was the synthesis of all she had learned, all she had felt. My key, she declared, her voice strong, is my song. It is the melody I have woven from the whispers of the wind, the rush of the sea, the heartbeat of the earth, and the courage in my own spirit. As she spoke, she began to sing, not just a hum, but a full, rich melody, drawing on every lesson, every discovery. Her voice soared, weaving intricate patterns of sound that danced with the light of the crystals. The siren's tear pulsed in her pouch, amplifying her song, purifying it. The heartseed glowed, grounding her melody with its steady rhythm, connecting it to the very essence of life. The crystal guardians, silent until now, began to stir. Their forms glowed brighter, and from their featureless faces, beams of pure light shot forth, striking the colossal central crystal. The crystal began to vibrate with incredible force, its colors swirling faster, its silent hum growing into a deep vibrating chord that resonated through the entire chamber. "Prove your harmony, Lyra of the sunken village," the resonant voice commanded. "Show us the true balance between light and shadow, sound and silence, life and stillness." Suddenly, the chamber was plunged into a strange, shifting challenge. Light from the crystals fractured, creating illusions. Shimmering mirages of vibrant gardens dissolving into barren wastes, echoes of joyous laughter twisting into mournful cries. The very floor beneath her feet seemed to shift, making her feel off balance. It was a test of perception, of inner balance. Lyra stood firm. She let her song flow, not battling the illusions, but embracing them, weaving their discordant notes into her own harmonious tapestry. She sang of the beauty of shadows that define light, of the necessity of silence for sound to be heard, of the cycle of life and stillness that makes existence vibrant. She used the siren's tear to discern the true nature of the sounds, separating illusion from reality, and the heart seed to keep her grounded, connected to life's fundamental rhythm, no matter how chaotic the external world became. No matter how chaotic the external world became. Her melody filled the chamber, a beacon of truth and balance. It didn't fight the illusions, it simply was. And as it resonated, the fractured light coalesced, the discordant echoes harmonized, and the shifting floor solidified. The illusions didn't disappear. They simply became part of a larger, more beautiful whole, like different instruments playing together in a grand orchestra. The colossal central crystal pulsed once more, and the resonant voice filled the chamber, now imbued with reverence. "You have sung the song of balance, Lyra. You have shown us that true harmony embraces all things, even the void. The veiled threshold is open to you. Beyond lies the heart of the world, where the great silence was born." A shimmering portal of pure, swirling light opened within the colossal crystal. It beckoned, promising both revelation and a final, ultimate challenge. With a renewed sense of purpose, Lyra stepped through, her melody a confident, vibrant hum, the siren's tear and heartseed glowing with steady power. Stepping through the portal was like shedding a skin of sound and light. The intense sensory input of the crystal caves vanished, replaced by an unsettling, profound stillness. It wasn't the silence of absence, but a heavy, deliberate silence, a presence that pressed down on her, stealing the very air from her lungs. She found herself in a vast, ethereal void. There was no floor, no ceiling, no walls, only an endless expanse of deep, velvety indigo that seemed to absorb all light and sound. Stars, not of the night sky but of pure, concentrated energy, shimmered distantly, like tears in the fabric of reality. This was the heart of the world, a place of primal creation and profound emptiness. In the very center of this void, suspended as if by sheer will, floated a colossal, shattered sphere. It was made of what looked like solidified starlight and echoes, but it was broken, fissured by countless dark cracks from which tendrils of pure silence seeped, spreading like ink into the luminous void. This was the source, the wound, the epicenter of the great silence. As Lyra drifted closer, propelled by an unseen force, she felt a profound sadness emanating from the shattered sphere. It wasn't malicious. It was merely broken, incomplete, yearning for what it had lost. She understood now. The great silence wasn't an enemy to be defeated, but a core of the world that had been fractured, its song muted. Around the shattered sphere, twisting and writhing like dark serpents, were the physical manifestations of the silence. They were not creatures, but forms woven from pure void, cold and utterly soundless. They pulsed with an anti-light, absorbing any stray glimmer, any faint hum. As Lyra drew near, these tendrils of silence reached out, attempting to engulf her, to extinguish her inner light and melody. Her melody faltered, A single, clear note, struggling against the crushing weight of the void. The siren's tear grew cold in her pouch, its usual hum stifled. The heart seed, though still beating, felt distant, its warmth struggling to penetrate the chill. This was the ultimate test. A voice, not of sound but of pure thought, echoed in her mind, cold and desolate. Return, little songbird. This is the end of all things. The quiet is absolute. There is no more music here. Woman, Lyra felt a tremor of fear, a familiar despair threatening to consume her. She remembered the silence that had crept into her village, the muted laughter, the hushed whispers, the gradual fading of joy. She remembered the faces of her people, their hope dwindling. She remembered her own initial fear, her doubt. But then she remembered the wind in the grasslands, the laughter of the water sprites, the steadfast rhythm of the sea heart, the glittering song of the crystal caves. She remembered the warmth of the heart seed, the clarity of the siren's tear, and the courage that had grown within her with every step of her journey. The voice in her mind tried again, sharper, more insistent. Give in. Let the quiet embrace you. It is peace. It is oblivion. Oh no. Oi. Lyra closed her eyes, and then opened them, her gaze firm. No, she whispered, her voice barely audible, yet resonating with an inner strength. Silence is not oblivion. It is the canvas upon which sound is painted, and a canvas without paint is just empty. She reached out, not to fight the tendrils of silence but to touch them. As her hand, still clutching the warm heartseed, brushed against a tendril of pure void, she felt a jolt. It wasn't pain, but a profound emptiness, a deep, aching loneliness. The heartseed pulsed brighter, radiating warmth and life into the chill. Then Lyra began to sing. It was a different kind of song than any she had sung before. It wasn't a melody of defiance, nor of triumph. It was a song of empathy, of understanding. She sang of the beauty of the broken, of the strength found in vulnerability. She sang of the dance between light and shadow, joy and sorrow, sound and silence, recognizing each as essential, each as part of the whole. She wove in the whispers of the grasslands, the playful gurgle of the water sprites, the deep, reassuring thrum of the sea heart, the intricate, shimmering echoes of the crystal caves. She poured her heart into it, every memory, every lesson, every piece of her journey. The siren's tear, now radiating a soft, warm light, amplified her voice, allowing it to penetrate the oppressive silence. The heartseed, nestled firmly in her palm, anchored her, ensuring her song was not just beautiful but alive, pulsing with the very essence of creation. As her song flowed, the tendrils of silence recoiled, not in defeat, but in recognition. They didn't dissolve. They softened, their rigid forms becoming fluid, almost translucent. The shattered sphere at the heart of the world began to tremble, not with breaking but with a deep internal resonance. Lyra sang of healing, of mending, of the rejoining of what was separated. She sang not to banish silence, but to remind it of its partner, sound. She sang of the fundamental truth that one cannot exist without the other, that true harmony requires both. Slowly, impossibly, the cracks in the colossal sphere began to mend. Not by being erased, but by being filled with shimmering threads of light and sound, like luminous veins flowing through ancient stone. The tendrils of silence, once dark and absorbing, now became delicate, shimmering filaments that danced around the sphere, no longer draining, but refining its renewed radiance. They were no longer the absence of sound, but the quiet spaces between the notes, giving the melody its shape and meaning. The heart of the world, once shattered and desolate, began to glow with a soft pulsing light that spread outwards, pushing back the oppressive indigo void. The light was not blinding but gentle, warm and imbued with every color imaginable. And with the light came sound, not a sudden overwhelming explosion, but a gradual gentle awakening. First it was a faint resonant hum, the heartbeat of the world returning. Then, tiny, crystalline chimes like distant bells. A soft whisper of wind, the gentle lapping of unseen water. The sounds grew, layered and intertwined, creating a symphony of emergence, a melody of rebirth. Lyra's own voice, now stronger and more vibrant than ever, became the conductor of this global orchestra. She guided the returning sounds, ensuring their balance, their harmony. She felt connected to everything: the smallest pebble, the highest star, the deepest ocean, the very fabric of existence. She was not just Lyra, the girl from the sunken village. She was Lyra, the weaver of song, the restorer of balance. Finally, the heart of the world was whole again, not a flawless sphere, but a magnificent tapestry of light and shadow, sound and silence, constantly shifting, breathing, living. The tendrils of silence, now transformed into shimmering nebulae, danced around it, guardians of its equilibrium. A wave of pure harmonious energy pulsed outwards from the heart of the world, washing over Lyra, filling her with a profound sense of peace and belonging. She felt the siren's tear and the heart seed merge with her, not physically but spiritually, becoming an inseparable part of her being. She had not just used their power, she had become on their embodiment. The journey back was a blur of shimmering portals and familiar landscapes, now transformed. She felt herself carried on a current of benevolent magic, through the harmonized echoes of the crystal caves, past the singing currents of the sunken labyrinth, and back into the familiar, yet now vibrant, waters leading towards her home. As she emerged from the currents, the first thing Lyra noticed was the sound. It wasn't the silence that had driven her on her quest, nor the dull muted echoes that had followed her for so long. It was the rich, full, vibrant symphony of life. The rustling of the seaweed forests, the bubbling laughter of the water sprites, the distant, rhythmic crash of the ocean waves. The hum of the village, once so faint, was now a lively chorus of voices, tools, and joyful melodies. She walked onto the familiar path, her feet feeling lighter than air, her heart soaring. The sunken village was bathed in a gentle, warm light, the oppressive gloom lifted. Children were playing, their laughter echoing clearly through the water. Fishermen were mending nets, humming old sea shanties. And at the heart of it all, her parents stood, their faces radiant with a joy Lyra hadn't seen in years. They saw her then, emerging from the shimmering currents, her clothes still damp, but her eyes shining with an inner light. A hush fell over the village, not of silence, but of anticipation. "Lyra!" her mother cried, rushing forward, her voice strong and clear. Her father followed, his embrace warm and firm. Lyra hugged them tightly, tears of joy streaming down her face. "The silence is gone," she whispered, her voice resonating with a power she hadn't known she possessed. "The song has returned." And as she spoke, a ripple of sound spread through the village. A child, emboldened, began to sing a simple, happy tune. Another joined in, then another, until the entire village was filled with a spontaneous, joyous chorus. The very walls of their homes seemed to hum in response, the vibrant colors of the coral glowing brighter. Lyra looked at her people, at the renewed life in their eyes, the music in their hearts. She knew her journey wasn't just about saving them from silence. It was about reminding them of the music they carried within themselves all along. She didn't tell them of the shattered heart of the world, or the dancing tendrils of silence. She simply shared her song, a melody woven from the wonders of the world, from the courage of her own spirit, and from the deep understanding that sound and silence were two sides of the same beautiful coin. From that day forward, Lyra became known as the Song Weaver, the girl who had brought back the music to the world. But she never forgot the lessons of the silence. She understood that even in the quietest moments, there was a rhythm, a breath, a potential for a new melody. She taught her village, and eventually the wider world, not just to sing, but to listen, to the whispers of the wind, to the heartbeat of the earth, and to the silent spaces that made every sound precious. The siren's tear and the heart seed no longer manifested as physical objects, but as a deep, resonant knowing within her. She carried the wisdom of their magic, the balance of sound and life, forever in her spirit. And so the sunken village thrived, its song echoing through the oceans, a beacon of harmony. Lyra, no longer just a girl searching for a melody, but a guardian of the world's song, continued to explore, to learn, to weave new music into the tapestry of existence. For she knew that the magic of the world was endless, and every moment, every sound, every whisper of silence was an invitation to listen, to learn, and to sing. And as the stars twinkled above the now vibrant waters, Lyra knew that the world would always have a song, as long as there were hearts open enough to hear it, and voices brave enough to sing it.